Morning. uh, I am tired, guys, but I'm gonna. Jesus. So, yeah, I've got these nice little bangs under my head, under my eyes, but I'm hoping that soon I'll be able to like fully wake up. So, I think I kind of got to sleep between 7 and 8. Problem is, and I only thought about this like when I was falling asleep, that on Friday there's always so much noise here when curfew hits, because then like I live quite near to a park, and at that point the people in the park have to go back to their cars, which is right next to my window. And so, yeah, that meant that the hour or so leading up to curfew, I was basically just awake the entire time because there were always people walking around, chatting, whatever on the streets. So, yeah. Uh, that's the. So, yeah, I mean, that's. And then, yeah, I think and then I didn't even get to sleep a lot more anymore because I was basically just constantly thinking, is my alarm going to go off yet or not? But okay. So, I mean, I did get some water in now, so I'm starting to feel the effect and starting to wake up a little bit more. So, I'm just gonna be hydrating myself a little bit more, and then at some point when I feel a little bit more awake or when the live show has started, I'll also start making some coffee as if this is really the start of my day, because it is, of course. But so, yeah, we'll definitely see. I think I'll definitely have had enough sleep to be able to fully wake up. So, I'll hopefully just snap out of it and then be able to stay awake for some up until somewhere in this afternoon. But so, yeah. That's just my little check-in before this live show starts, and I'm going to join it now. Am I too lazy to properly hold this one up? Yep. But so, it is 2:45, and in the last sprint, I finished the Final Empire. Now, my thoughts on the Final Empire are going to be in my other dedicated reading vlog for the Final Empire, though I'm not entirely sure yet whether I'm just suffocating on a nut here. Not entirely sure whether I'm going to be uploading my vlog because I think my first clip is broken. My first update on the Final Empire is broken. So I'll have to see when I get around to editing that, whether I can still make something out of it or not. But so, finished my first book. Of course, I only had like 43 pages or something like that to go into it in any case, so it's not like a huge achievement or anything like that. But hey, we are under 3 hours in, and no, under 2 hours in. Just keep forgetting that we start at 1 my time, so under 2 hours in, first book is done. So that means that I'm moving on to Flowers for Algernon. So I have some 70 pages, I think, to go in this one. We currently have a long sprint, meaning that we still have 40 minutes or more or less to go. I spent the first 10 minutes getting myself a cup of coffee because I need energy at the moment, though I will say, like, I've had a little bit more water and things like that, and so I am now feeling perfectly fine. I've woken up and I'm ready for this sprinting time now. So, without further ado, let's just dive into some reading. Hey guys, 4.5 hours in, so it's 5:30, and I just finished Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. So I really loved it. I think it is super thought-provoking, which I always love in a book. It's a good read as well, and yeah, I think it's a very interesting one. I cannot dive into it too fully. So in any case, in case I didn't talk about this book before this update, so in Flowers for Algernon, we are following Charlie. Charlie is this boy who has an intellect that is sub 100 IQ, and so he is basically he's somewhat childlike. He has a somewhat childlike perspective into the world. He doesn't fully understand the implications of his words or of other people's actions the same way as most people would. But he enters into an experiment that is going to make him super intelligent. The book very much deals with the implications of intellect, the way in which people are treated based off of their intellect. A lot of times, Charlie, once he is smart, is considered as having been created, having been made an individual because of his intellect now, as if he didn't exist before that. However, we also always have in Charlie's own sort of reports about what is happening to him, which is the way in which the story is told, we often see the real Charlie, the old Charlie, lurking in the shadows, waiting for his opportunity. And so, yeah, I think that sort of duality between the two Charlies was definitely made prominent throughout the book, and it also definitely feels like that to some extent, as if there are two Charlies who are alternating their storytelling. But I thought it was really well done. I thought it was very difficult to read through at some points as well, because we do get a lot of scenes that are hard to read, scenes about the mother who has a very difficult relationship with her son and who is very much trying to get him to live up to her image of what her son should be like, and then later is kind of pushing him away when she has a normal daughter. But there are certain implications later in the book about things that have gone down there as well that definitely make you understand to some extent some of her actions, make you understand why she was just out of her depth and didn't know how to deal with that situation. So it's a complicated read. It's definitely not one that you can sort of put an explanation on or say like this is what the message is. It's very much offering you a scenario that is not possible in real life, and making you think about the possible implications of the elements it touches upon. But so yeah, I've finished my second read now. There are like 9 minutes left in the sprint, but I'll probably just use them to relax a little bit. And then starting the next sprint, I am going to be reading in my secret TBR book. I don't know yet what like my next book would be that I'm picking up, but so in these sprints we're basically playing games, and then the loser has to change books. So I'm gonna side with Steph on this one. So Steph better do me well, because if she loses, then rather than taking my secret TBR book, I have to decide on another book. Because I don't have the third and fourth prompt yet, it's gonna be kind of a guessing game. It's gonna be basically me just betting on books and hoping that they will fit into some prompts later on. But so yeah, still very much awake. So I know that I cannot really update you guys because I cannot talk about the book, but clearly I took a shower in order to try and wake up properly. So it is close to 9 o'clock at this point in time. They're just rounding off the sprint, and so in 10 minutes they're moving on to the third live show of this whole thing, which is the final live show for the first roll drop. So in 4 hours and a couple of 10 minutes or something like that, I will have the next two prompts, and hopefully one of them will fit the current book that I'm reading, because it needs to. I mean, it needs to fit one of the remaining 6 that are gonna come, because otherwise, why am I putting all of this time into this book? But in any case, just wanted to talk to you guys. So I am now wide awake thanks to that shower. So I have gotten like a new wind, and I'm getting another coffee, and probably during the first sprint in Steph's sprints I will probably have some breakfast. I guess if I'm gonna get some sort of like oats or something like that, some slow sugars to keep me active, to keep me awake. But I will probably also at some point want to try out another book. The problem is, like, do I hold out for the next 4 hours until I get the next prompts before I choose another book to kind of switch out to? But this book, I'm kind of not really tired of it, but I kind of want a break because it is a little bit slower paced. But so yeah, I don't know yet what I'm gonna do with that. So we have passed the first 12-hour mark. So the first 2 prompts have been completed, and we've just been given the second 2 prompts, so the third and the fourth prompt. Not making much sense anymore, but okay. So if you can hear some wonderful background noise, my upstairs neighbor has decided to redo his apartment. I mean, basically it's new people moving in, and I think that they're changing the flooring or something like that. So much for sleeping during the day. But so my current read, which I was about to grab, but it's a secret TBR book, so I won't. My secret TBR book does fit one of the prompts. So one of the prompts is POC rep, and so it has POC rep in it. It would have had disability rep in it. It had LGBTQIA plus rep in it. So any type of rep was going to fit this one, and so lucky that one popped up. And then and so the POC rep here is mainly Asian. So it's written by an Asian author, and we do have 2 Chinese characters that have like viewpoints, but we also have a boy who is, his mother was I don't know how to say it in English. Do you say Kurdistani? So we do have a couple of POC representations within this book and within the author herself. The second prompt is contemporary, and that's a little bit more of a difficulty. So it is a historical book, so I cannot use it. And then my other secret TBR book is also historical, I think. Then I still have 2 books on my TBR. One is a fantasy, the other one is also historical. So I need to find a book that is contemporary in order to use. So all the books that are a little bit more to the front are unread. So I would have like Humanx by Han Kang, but I think that has to do with some historic events. So no, Beijing Coma, I'm pretty sure it's also historical. Love in a Time of Cholera, definitely not. State of Fear by Michael Crichton, don't think it has a specific time frame. Meanwhile in Dopamine City, perhaps, but I think it's a little bit too big to use. What do we have here? That is all historical. It's a non-fiction. I guess that's gonna be historical, way too big in any case. Gingerbread, oh no, Northwests. Not really, right? So, neither. You know, I don't read that much contemporary. Maybe Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine, but once again, that's such a big chunker. Maybe I Have Lost My Way. That could be one. Or Juliet Naked. That's probably considered contemporary. That's quite short as well. Children Act, I think, is going to be historical. What do I have up there still? That's all not going to do it. No, nothing of that is going to fit. So perhaps I Have Lost My Way. But I also had one other in mind, right? Where are you? Such a Fun Age. But I'm seeing it now, it looks a little bit big. But maybe. So that's what I'm considering. Either it's going to be Such a Fun Age by Kylie Reid, or it's going to be, where are you? One of these 2. Probably it's going to be Juliet Naked. Ooh. What I'm actually going to do is see if any of these pop up on audiobook. And I can still also check out script. Maybe I want a contemporary that I have on scripts. Preferably a short one. Though, I mean, I am like 80 pages away from finishing my current read. So I will have most of these 12 hours to read another book for this prompt. And it might be better to put time into this one, you know, rather than have it finished too early and then once again having to bet on reading something that can hopefully fit for multiple prompts. So yeah, it's probably best to take one that's actually going to last me through a little bit of time. But so let me first finish my secret TBR book so that I can have that one done with.
I never think, I never know. I'm stuck and left alone. I've been lost, I've been found. My cause is not defined.
So, this amazing style comes to you from the fact that I'm reading my forward book. So, I finished my secret TBR book. It'll be like, it was a so-so book. I enjoyed parts of it, but it wasn't like amazing, but okay. And I then started I Have Lost My Way by Gail Forman. Basically, the only reason why I'm choosing this one over the other options was that this is the one that is available on script as an audiobook. And I've been reading too much physically, been reading too much with my eyes, so I need a audiobook as a sort of like easy way to get a couple of pages in. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. So during the sprints, I'm now listening to it. I'm reading it at like 1.8 speed. I mean, I'm listening to it at 1.8 speed or something like that. And at that speed, I think I have like a little over 3 hours left in the audiobook at this point in time. Part of me wants to take a nap now. On the other hand, I'm just having a Coke, so that's also gonna have energy. And I hear that my upstairs neighbor is still working, like it's intermittently, but I still hear him hammering away from time to time. So probably if I try to sleep, I'll just get interrupted. So yeah, I'll just keep going at least for like another hour or so, and we'll see what ends up happening. But I do need to sleep at some point, and I kind of want to jump back on during the 1 o'clock sprints because they are hosted by Gavin, and I just love Gavin's sprints. So yeah, we'll have to see whether I'm able to do that, because that would kind of mean that I need to go to bed soon. So probably that's not gonna happen. I'll probably have to jump in later during those sprints, I guess. So it is 8 o'clock almost, and I am currently reading I Have Lost My Way by Gail Forman. I am midway through the book at this point in time. I am enjoying it, though. I'm finding this whole sort of like strangers meet, and I don't know, I'm finding the whole sort of premise of why these people are sticking together a little bit on the thin side of like a little bit too like wishy-washy. There's not really a good enough reason for these people to stick together, or at least not fully. Though I do like that in movies, that sort of idea of like strangers meeting and this sort of like deep bonds that grows between them. And so that's kind of also what this book is doing. It's kind of looking at these three people who are broken through some sort of grief, some sort of a loss. So whether it be the loss of a father figure or a sister figure, for example, or having to deal with a breakup, or being the parent figure in a father-son relationship, those types of losses, the loss of an eye for one of them as well, for example. Those things are definitely tying them together. Also is probably going to be part of the storyline of having them find sort of healing within themselves. I'm enjoying it. It's a fast-paced read, but personally don't necessarily think it's going to be like one that I'm going to be blown away by or anything like that. It's just going to be one that I enjoy, and that is going to be like mediocre the same way that my secret TBR book turned out to be mediocre, in the sense that it's good. It's on the upper side of 3, let's say it like that, but it doesn't get to that sort of 4-star range that I think is like, okay, this is a book that I want to keep. This one probably will get unhauled after I read it. I'm not done with it yet. I am currently super awake, but I'm really like, I think I really need to sleep at some point, because I want to be there for Gavin's sprints. But that's at 1 o'clock. And so at this point, that will be like in 5 hours. So now would be the perfect time to sleep, but I am wide awake, so I don't know. I guess I'll just stick through with it, I guess. Yeah, this is probably a bad idea if I want to be there for Gavin's sprint, but I just don't see myself going to sleep now, because I'm wide awake, as I just said. So yeah, maybe not.
In all of us, in our hearts, there's love and light that we must realize. We need to feel, we need to use this warmth that
It is 10:30. I just finished I Have Lost My Way by Gail Forman, which by the way I really enjoyed. So I will still say that it's like on the whole of my reading life, it's not really making much of an impact, but it is very wholesome. I very much liked it. It does have certain trigger warnings, so if you are somebody who needs trigger warnings, then definitely do check them out. It's not a lot, but there is this one thing that can be quite triggering, I guess. So for that reason, I would say go into it. I did very much like it, and so I would definitely say if you're looking for sort of like nice found family, wholesome story of people healing, getting past emotional blockages or emotional trauma, or finding the courage to let people around them fully see who they are or fully know who they are, or for standing up for themselves and what they believe in and things like that, then this is definitely a good choice for you to do that. But so it is 2.5 hours until the next sprints start, until we go over to Gavin's channel and get prompt number 5 and 6. And part of me is just like, maybe I should just try and stay awake for the full 48 hours. But that's just because I'm currently on a high. And then, but that's gonna come crashing down pretty quickly, I think, because I have now finished all of these. I would need to fully start from zero, whichever books that I'm reading now. And I'm expecting that to kind of diminish this excitement that I currently have. I'm gonna go and sleep now. It is a bit dangerous because I'm gonna be only sleeping for like 2 hours, which is like a danger zone. It's probably too much. It's probably too little and too much, too much in the sense that I will be going into deep sleep, but I'll only have like a little bit of deep sleep. Maybe I should just do an hour and a half. The problem is that I'll probably not fall asleep immediately. You know what? I'll just put it for 10 minutes to 1, and then hopefully I will be able to make myself get up and join Gavin's sprints. I'm excited for them, so that should help me wake up for them. So the second prompts, just like the third prompts, just dropped, and they're not ideal. So first up is first in the series, but I actually saw some other people who have commented on that they're gonna read Empress on Salt and Fortune by Yi Bo, not entirely sure now of the name, and that has been on my to-do list because I wanted to read it last month when it was the pick for the Of Queens, Witches and Valkyries book club. So that is just like a under 3-hour audiobook that sounds like it's going to be very good for that one. But then it also had chance card. Basically the idea is that you take like the same amount of books that you want to read as the amount of books that you don't want to read, and then you randomize the selection. Now I have gone for a very small selection here, and they're basically all part of like cat they're basically all part of like the shortest books that I have on my shelves. And so I am excited about An Artist of the Floating World, less excited about The Spy because I've had some, I was very much disappointed when I reread The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Then I am excited about Juliet Naked because I think that that's going to be a very short or like a fast-paced read. I'm less excited about Humanx by Han Kang because I think that that's going to be a lot more of a complex read. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4 from the top to the bottom, and let's just find a random number generator to give me my option. Honest to God, I don't know what I'm updating you guys on anymore. But so, in case I didn't update you earlier, I decided to get some extra sleep in, so I did like 2 hours on Gavin's sprints. And then I decided that, that was like around face masks time, which for people who were there for Becca's Bookoplathon, it was a fun time there. But I was like at that point thinking like, okay, I want to also do the face mask, but that's gonna wake me up further. And I was just at that stage where I was like, no, I actually want to sleep. So I did more or less 2 hours on Gavin sprints, and then I slept for 5 hours until 8 o'clock this morning when my regular alarm clock went off, and I was just like, what? What? And it took me a while to actually realize, like a while, I say like a minute or something for me to realize, like, wait, it's Bookoplathon, I really need to get up. But so I was able to join back in during the final hour of Jade's sprints. And I must say that, like, I'm 2 hours further in now at this point, and I've already read like twice as much as I read in the 2 hours during Gavin's sprints, just because I was just like battling sleep way too much. So I just showed you a clip earlier, I think, of me holding an egg because Beth was making pancakes and I impromptu decided to also do it, but that was just, the egg had kind of spoiled. So basically I was like trying to open it, and like the sort of like layer surrounding the yolk and the white was like not penetrating, and then it became clear why. So I had to throw away that egg immediately because the smell was starting to escape. So yay, fun start to my morning. But I did then go for some fruits instead and some nice kit champagne. I still have a little bit of the fruit left. I'm not really a breakfast person usually, and so I get stuffed pretty quickly in the morning. But so Breakfast with Beth, I'm really enjoying it, but this book is not the perfect book to read with it, actually. But I do, like, I'm really enjoying it, by the way, let that be clear. But it wasn't, maybe I should have switched to the other book at that point in time, because this is a very heavy book. I'm actually very happy that Bookoplathon got pushed this on me to some extent. I think it doesn't really suit the Bookoplathon vibes. And it was like the one that I didn't really want to read, but I am enjoying it so much. And part of the reason why I didn't want to read it is because I had a mixed experience with The Vegetarian by Han Kang, in that I didn't really know whether I liked it or not at the end of this. And so this, first of all, has already made me realize that I do definitely love her writing style in any case. And this is less of a weird book than The Vegetarian is. This is very much a comprehensible book. And so I'm enjoying it so much, even though normally I also like weird books, but with The Vegetarian I couldn't really make up my mind. But so Humanx is a book that addresses the, where is it? Gwangju uprising in South Korea in 1980. And so it's basically an uprising, a revolt from the people that was heavily pushed down by the military. And so this is a book told through different perspectives of their experiences. The aftermath, it seems. I mean, during the aftermath, they're also discussing the uprising itself, but it isn't really told in a sort of like linear progression or something like that. And actually, the opening perspective, which is super powerful, is a perspective of somebody who has lost a friend. They don't know where their friend is during the uprising, and they are going to some sort of a compound where they are gathering the dead in order for people to go there and identify their loved ones. And so it's very much focusing in on all of these corpses, on all of these lost bodies. And so that's so far really seems to be the tone that we are looking at. The toll we're looking at, we're very much getting the impact pushed on us. And so it is a heavy read, and like some of the sort of body decomposition scenes and things like that definitely weren't great to read when I was having my breakfast. But I am loving it so far. Loving it seems like a weird word to use, of course, in this context. Yeah, I just think it is a very powerful and impactful read. For this one, I would actually encourage you guys to read the translator's note or the introduction. I don't know what it's called at the beginning. It's called Introduction, but it is basically a translator's note at the beginning of this, because it does give you a little bit more context about the uprising, or maybe to look into it a little bit more. But I think based off of the introduction, you already have a little bit of a sort of like background against which to go into this book. It doesn't do any sort of like, it doesn't spoil any of the content that is in the book itself. So it is just a nice way for you to know sort of like the background of what this book is all about, and then some more information about the way in which the translator might have changed certain things within the book. But yeah, I am going to be continuing on. I don't expect, so I have like 3 hours, no, 2.5 hours until the next prompts are dropped. I don't expect to finish my 5th book. I haven't started my 6th book, but I'm hoping that my final 2 prompts, I can get like short things in there so that I can still potentially finish all 8 prompts, which would be amazing. I'm usually not somebody who can like fully finish a readathon, you know. I would be able to finish it if I doubled up on prompts and those types of things, but I am a slow reader, so normally I cannot finish. So I definitely have to thank Becca for allowing you to count books that you've already started previously, because yeah, for Final Empire, for example, I was already like I was already like close to 700 pages in before the start of this. But so yeah, I'm just going to be checking in with you guys a little bit later.
In all of us, in our hearts, there's love and light that we must realize. We need to feel, we need to use this warmth that could make bright our lives. In all of us, in our hearts, there's love and light that we must realize. We need to feel, we need to use this warmth that could make bright our lives. All of us, in our hearts, there's love and light that we must realize. We need to feel, we need to use this warmth that could make bright our lives. In all of us,
So still got my face mask on, because apparently it was like an overnight face mask, but in any case I cannot use face masks overnight because I sleep on my side or even on my belly, so like there's little chance of me getting through the night without swishing all of this all over my pillow then. But so the final 2 prompts have just been dropped. And the final 2 are 1, other genres, so not your main genre, and like love Erin for telling me like or like for telling everybody that basically we just look at our like 2 main genres and anything that falls out of those. So for me, my 2 main genres would be general fiction and fantasy, and so I'm gonna go with a historical one there, because then I can go with A Dead Gin in Cairo by P. Jelly Clark, which is super short, and it's one that I've been very interested in since I heard like somebody, I don't know who, another booktuber talk about Tramcar 15, which is the second pre-novella before a series by this author. So very intrigued about that one, and it's set in Cairo, and I love Egypt, want to read more books set in Egypt, so yeah, that fits very well with what I want to do. So that would mean I have under 3 hours audiobook for Empress of Sultan Fortune, which is prompt number 5. I have under 2 hours for Dead Gin in Cairo, which is prompt number 7. I have half of this to go, and then I need to find something for the final prompt, which is present day setting, which not really liking that one, but I'll just have to see what I come up with for that one, because I think the contemporaries that I looked at yesterday would definitely fit, but apart from that, I don't know whether I have anything short that would fit, so I might have to go for another audiobook for that one. Kind of want to do like kind of want to do something that is physical, just to help reduce my TBR even further. But we'll have to see. I think I'll just tackle those three, and then we'll just have to see what I end up doing with the final prompts. If worst comes to worst, we make it a combination between the contemporary I read yesterday and this present day. But I wanted to get through it without doubling up, so we'll have to see.
I never think, I never know. I'm stuck and left alone. I've been lost, I've been fine. My cause is not defined. Won't you kiss me? Won't you play? Won't you trust me?
Hey guys, don't really know what time it is. We are in the second to last sprint, so less than 8 hours in any cases. In any case, I finished my 5th and 6th book at this point in time. So 5th book that I finished was Buffy the Vampire Slayer, so I changed my mind. I don't know whether I really forget every update at this point in time, but so I've changed my mind, and so I'm using Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the modern comic, for present day setting. And then I am probably, like, I'm not entirely sure yet about what I'm doing with my final 2 reads, because I have under 8 hours to go. And what I was originally gonna do was read one that has like just over 2 hours and a just over 10 hours audiobook, but I don't know, like, even at 2 times speed, it's probably cutting it too short. But so I really liked the modern version of the Buffy comics, but they're really, like, it was, the first volume is just like 130 pages or something like that, so it really isn't too much of a story yet, and so it was basically just a little bit of an introduction. But I really liked it. I liked the way it was modernized. I liked the way in which certain characters who have been like a little bit more stereotypical in these series have been like made a little bit more humanized, I guess, or something like that, or like better fits the stereotypes of our days, maybe, or something like that. So Cordelia is no longer that fully shallow person that she was often portrayed as, in the beginning at least, of Buffy. So she immediately has a little bit more of that depth of her personality that she got later on in the series as well, from the beginning of this comic book series. And I got to see Spike, always happy with Spike within the series. And so yeah, I have been enjoying that, and I just finished Humanx by Humanx. And I mean, this is a 5-star read, and it's probably going to be my favorite read for my first quarter of the year, because it's just amazing. And yeah, I mean, it's heartbreaking, harrowing, depressing to think about what humans can do to one another. And so yeah, this is a super hard read, and you are not spared as a reader in any way, shape, or form. So definitely know that going into it, that it's going to be a difficult read. But I did definitely kind of fly through it in a way, because I did more or less read it in one go. In the end, I did take a break at some point from it, but part of me would have liked to have actually read it in one go, because I just got so invested in this story, or in these people's life, because basically it can kind of be read as a series of interconnected short stories, because all of the characters from whose perspective we are reading have some sort of relationship to one another. And so throughout the different perspectives, you will start to see links to the original storyline that we were following. And so yeah, they were a very difficult read, but I would definitely highly encourage you, because these are the types of events that happen on a world stage that need to be remembered in order for us to try and not make these types of mistakes anymore. But It was definitely a page of Korean history that I personally didn't know too much about. I don't know too much about Korea to begin with, but I'm definitely happy that reading books in translation can help fix that sort of gap in knowledge and can help broaden your perspective on the world and what has taken place in it. So yeah, for my final two reads, so as I said, I have under 8 hours left. I will definitely still try to go for The Empress of Salt and Fortune as my seventh read. This has got an audiobook that's like 2 hours. This has got an audiobook that's 2 hours and 25 minutes long, but I can definitely, like, at the very least, I'm doing 1.5 speed, and in that case, I can get it to under 2 hours. But then we'll have to see what ends up happening for the final one. I think a worst case scenario, I can kind of go for, what is that in my hair? Is that just my gray hair reflecting? Whatever. Worst case scenario, I will then just go for, what did I say earlier? A Dead Gin in Cairo, which can be labeled historical. It's actually fantasy, but it can be labeled historical, and in that sense, it is not my usual genre, and then I can read it for it, and that all has an audiobook under 2 hours, but we'll just see. I'll still try to find something that kind of works better towards the end, because I want to stay until the end. So I do want to, like, I don't want to be finished like 3 hours before the readathon ends, for example, neither. So I think I'm now going to be combining this audiobook with The Sims, just to get out of this chair for a little bit and change my environment for a bit. Alright, I finished The Empress of Salt and Fortune. We have 5 hours, just under, like, it's just 3 minutes past 8 at this point. So just under 5 hours left to go. And so I need to pick my final book. So final book is other, meaning a genre not your typical genre. And so we have fantasy and general fiction that are excluded at this point in time. And so I was kind of debating. You've heard me go back and forth on this the entire time, but I found a book that I'm going to be doing for it. It has an audiobook that is like over 5 hours, but I mean, on audio, I usually go like 1.5 or something like that. And so even if I go 1.5, I will be making up for like some of the time, and then hopefully I can still do it. If I get to some sort of a crunch time, I can still mute the sort of like chatty bits in between from time to time in order to kind of catch up, to make sure that I still get around to it. And that is going to be We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer. This is the Dutch edition, but so this book actually came out in Dutch before it came out in English, and so I went to see Jonathan Safran Foer present his book before COVID, not really that much before, I think September before COVID, and so there weren't any English editions out there yet at that point in time, which was sad because I do have all of my other Jonathan Safran Foers in the English, but this is a signed copy now, as are all of my Jonathan Safran Foers now. But so it is going to be a bit weird because I'm going to be listening to it in English while kind of like skimming along to the Dutch, I guess. We'll see. Maybe after a while I'll just listen to the English, or I don't think if I read the Dutch that I'll be able to finish it in time. But so yeah, it has an audiobook of 6 hours or something, which I find weird for a 280-page book, but maybe the font is just bigger or something like that. The font is quite big, the spacing between the lines is also a little bit bigger, I guess. But so yeah, that is going to be my final one. It's nonfiction. I don't read nonfiction that often, and it is another physical book, which is what I prefer to do now, to read some physical books, because I have made up sort of like the backlog of physical reads that I accumulated in the month of February. So at this point in time, I have gotten to, like, I've reduced it by 11 since the beginning of this year, which is what I need to do by the end of March. But I'm going to be reducing it by more because I'm going to be reading this one at least, and then hopefully still finishing the 2 other books on my physical on my monthly TBR within the remaining time within the month of March. So that's going to be nice. I'm going to be getting further into my physical TBR than I thought I was going to be, which is always a nice perk. But so yeah. Currently, as I said, I think this is the final sprint then. Yeah, it's the final sprint of Cody's live show. And so after this one, we are going over to Becca's live show to round off this whole readathon experience, which I've been enjoying so much. But so yeah, let me dive into this final book for tonight.
And we must do this together. Everyone's hand wrapped around the same pen. Every breath of everyone, exhaling the shared prayer. Thus, we shall make a home together, the soul concludes at the end of the suicide note, perhaps beginning its opposite. Each of us arguing with ourselves, we shall make a home together.
Did it! I'm gonna have to update you guys tomorrow because my cell phone is at less than 10% battery, so it's going to die on me any second now. But I finished! I have 4 minutes to spare at this point in time. I did it, 8 books, so I didn't start all of them from the get-go, but I did read 1,400 and something pages, so I'm extremely happy with that, and I'm not going to be repeating it anytime soon either. Hey guys, it is a Monday. I did take it super slow this morning. I mean, I woke up at like 8, so it's not even like I slept in, but I did then like stay like for 2 hours or something in the bed before I actually like did the physical waking up to that extent. But so it is time for me to round off this vlog and to talk about everything that I read during Becca's Bookoplathon, and I'm so happy because I got 5 physical books done within this readathon. 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 physical. This is not 6, but I'm holding the phone. So I got 6 physical books down during this readathon. Only 5 are new books on my TBR in the sense that, you know, one of them was a reread. But so let me talk about them in terms of the prompts that they fitted. So first prompt, which was a fantasy book. I read The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. Only read 40 pages into this, but hey, you were allowed to use books that you had previously started, so hey, loophole. Second book that I finished is Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. This fits the prompt of a dark cover. Third book that I finished is a secret TBR book, so you're not gonna get any sneak peek of what it is. This fits the prompt of POC rep? No, all right, POC rep. Next up, I finished, all of this is still for day 1, and then I finished I Have Lost My Way by Gail Forman, which was the contemporary. Next prompt that I finished was the community chance? No, it was chance card. And so chance card basically meant that you went through your books and you found some books you are more excited about and some books you're less excited about, and then you let random generator decide. And it's so ironic that I got one that I was less excited about, and this is going to be the sellout for this vlog. This is going to be my 5-star read, my favorite book I've read so far this month, and that this year even, and that is Humanx by Han Kang. Next one that I finished was Buffy the Vampire Slayer Volume 1. This is a comic book, which is a modernization of the Buffy stories. And so then I finished The Empress of Salt and Fortune by Nhi Vo. I'm not entirely sure that is how you pronounce it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I'm intrigued to continue on with it, but it is so short that it's also like, it doesn't have the opportunity to dive into a whole lot. So I did definitely feel like, for me personally, the length was a little bit of a problem, that I was wanting more with it. And then the final book that I finished is We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer. So basically, this book is a very good introduction to climate change, a very good introduction to, you know, what's the deal with climate change. Everybody sees, like, the vast majority of the population is agreeing that there is a huge problem, we need to tackle it. However, nobody's tackling it. And so it talks about that paradox between understanding that there's a problem, but still not being willing to take action on that. It's a subject that's near and dear to my heart, and so I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a really good one to start with if you're interested in more literature on climate change. His other nonfiction book, Eating Animals, is also very good, so I would actually also highly recommend that one. But so yeah, I am so happy with my progress during Becca's Bookoplathon. Really enjoyed most of the books that I read. In any case, I really loved the experience. So having this be 48 hours live was just amazing to kind of constantly be joining in with multiple people from around the world, seeing the same sort of names pop in different live shows and things like that. It was just a nice community spirit, something we definitely need in these times. But so yeah, I'm gonna round it off here. I don't know how long this vlog is going to end up being. I hope that I was able to kind of keep it to a relatively okay length, but probably not. So my apologies for that, but if you liked it, then in that case, you're welcome, I guess. So hope you guys enjoyed this video and see you guys for a future one. Bye.